This is the FRC Roundtable, coming to you all the way from Minnesota. Your host team 2052 Nightcrawler presents this weekly FRC gathering where FIRST Robotics competition teams take cooperation off the field. Share your knowledge, give and get advice, solve a challenge, or celebrate what makes your team special. 3, 2, 1, go!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the FRC Roundtable Sunday Night Call. My name is Scott Davis. I am a mentor for Team 2052.
Hi, I'm going to be one of your co-hosts. I am Alana. I am a junior, and I'm on the build sub team on Team 2052.
I'm also Anna. I am a junior on build for Team 2052, and we would like to welcome you to tonight's FRC Roundtable. Some housekeeping notes before we start. The FRC Roundtable is recorded for YouTube and Spotify. You must be 13 years old to participate on the live call. If you're comfortable, please use your cameras when speaking. The Roundtable is no longer exclusive to Minnesota teams. Mentors and students from all FRC teams are welcome to join us. For more information, including our privacy policy, is at team2052.com/roundtable. With that, we have a new segment to start off the show this season called What's on the Wiki. Tonight's wiki highlight is...
Okay, so and with that, we're going to go over our general season outline, where you can find that it is on our 2052 wiki on general 4.3. What that is we use that to help guide our students in leader position in their leader positions throughout the build season. There are so many elements that go into the build season that can be over or underestimated within time, like such as once we make it through from our fall season to our winter season, it goes from a big jump from doing preseason competitions to the actual competitions that come up in March and April. And what these guidelines help with is they help with how long of the prototyping process, how long it should be and when it should be ended, and when programming should be working on autos ahead of time, and basically guiding our students to know how fast they need to work on this process. And it helps our team be more efficient in deadlines and be more prepared for on-season competitions.
All right. Thank you very much, Anna and Alana. With that, we're going to move on to our main event tonight. Tonight, we have Rachel and Jess presenting. Rachel and Jess are going to talk to us about the judging process and share some of the maybe behind-the-scenes secrets or fix maybe misconceptions. And so with that, I will let you take it over and introduce yourselves more completely and take the topic is yours. The floor is yours. Please continue.
All right, so before we begin, can everyone see the screen? All right. Well, like Scott said, Jess and I are the Northland co-senior JAs for this season, and we are here to talk about the judging process, specifically a lot of myths that we hear year in and year out, and we're here to debunk those myths. So as an introduction, my name's Rachel. I'm a FIRST alum. I've been volunteering for over 10 years, and I'm a former FRC mentor. My day job, if you will, is I'm a medical device engineer.
And I'm Jess Yagane. I am also a FIRST alumna. I've been volunteering for 10 plus years in different roles. I'm a former FRC, F2C, and FLLC mentor, and my day job is at the Minnesota Senate, where I do media and communication. So who are we? You might see us at events. We are your senior judge advisors here in the Northland. So we are judge advisors, but also we are here to support all of our judge advisors in Minnesota. We have 7-8 events here this upcoming season. So Rachel and I can't do it all alone. So we have a lovely group of judge advisors in Minnesota that we support, and in general, judge advisors. We manage and guide the judging panel. You see all your judges talking to you in blue polos at events, and we ensure that FIRST policies and guidelines are followed, and we need to make sure our judges follow and meet the deadlines at events. As you know, it's a very quick turnaround at events, so we need to make sure that every team is seen and we get our awards figured out. What judge advisors don't do, we are not the ones interviewing teams. Those are your judges. And we, as judge advisors, are not selecting the award winners. We are just guiding the conversation.
So as we begin tonight's conversation, we also wanted to provide some guidelines, if you will, around what we will and will not talk about. So today's conversation is about the misconceptions about the judging process and providing resources for all teams to review. Tonight, we're not going to talk about how to win more awards, provide individual team feedback, or go into specifics of the Dean's List or First Impact Award interview processes. Stay tuned. We are going to have an informational session February 1st, so mark that on your calendar, where we're going to talk about all things Dean's List and First Impact Award interviews specifically. And then just as a note, since teams outside of the Northland, Minnesota, North Dakota do watch and listen to this, we are in the regional model. So as we talk about event-specific topics, those are going to be discussed in context of the regional model.
An important note for 2026, First has updated some of the award descriptions. I would really recommend looking at those on the First FRC resources page. This is a great opportunity to learn what award changes have happened, especially going into your events, because you might think an award is the same as all the past years, and it is not. So give it a look. And on to the myths. So, as judge advisors, we hear a lot of different things. We see it on Chief Delphi, we see it in the Slack, we see it on Discord, Reddit, everywhere. So, we're here to clear a few things up. One is that judges hate Minnesota teams. I know I've heard this from mentors, I've heard this from teams, we see it on social media, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then another one is teams local to the event are heavy favorites. Judges rig the process for their favorite teams, especially if a team, mentor, volunteer is in the room. Judge advisors have a say in which teams are picked for which award. Judges know going into the event which teams are going to win awards, and judge advisors will intentionally pick which judges visit which teams to make the results happen a certain way. And the truth is, we don't hate teams. We're here to help and support you all and be your best advocate. We want to learn everything from you and bring that back to the judge room. There is no location in a criteria for any of the awards. And our judge rooms, all of our volunteers, and same with First Events, have to fill out a conflict of interest form. We know going into it which mentors or maybe sponsors have conflicts of interest with teams. So we make sure to manage those in the room, and we make sure that nothing happens that is outside of the norm. And outcomes are not predetermined. The only awards that are predetermined coming into the event are Woody Flowers Finalist in Award and Volunteer of the Year, which are both not judged on site. And then our judges are randomly assigned to see different teams. So we are not looking at the sheet and going, hey, Rachel, I know you really love this team. How about we have you go and judge them because we want them to win an award? That is not happening in our room. We want to make it as fair as possible because we want to make sure that everybody has a good experience with FRC and our program.
All right, the second group of myths that we'll talk about is that there are secret rubrics and criteria. So those include things like awards criteria isn't followed and that there's this secret rubric. I've also heard that a secret reward or a bonus criteria, if you will, is released each year by First headquarters. And, I've heard numerous examples. So like this year, First is really favoring small teams, or this year we're going to favor small town teams, or this year we're going to favor the FTC or First Tech Challenge or First Lego League pipeline, things like that. And then another myth is around resources. So using tools like the Kitbot, robot in 3 days, AI, etc., causes you to, quote, lose points in the judging process. So here's the truth. Awards follow the award descriptions and criteria, and this is available to all teams. So like Jess said, there have been a lot of changes for 2026, so you're going to want to take a look at what those changes are. There is no secret bonus criteria that's handed down. It's the awards description and awards criteria. That's what we use. So in terms of resources, the guidance that First headquarters has given to judge advisors and judges, specifically around some of these newer resources like AI or the Kitbot, Everybot, things like that, are to look at them as resources just like we would CAD or 3D printing. So it's important that students, when you're being interviewed by judges, you understand what resource you picked, why you picked it, how you used it, all of those types of questions, and that you're giving credit to your sources. Specifically around AI, please follow the First guidelines on how to give the proper credit to any AI you're going to use. And this is really important for any written submissions that you're doing, like the Woody Flowers Award, Dean's List, and the First Impact Award.
Another bucket of myths that we heard is it's impossible to win. Only the biggest, richest teams win awards, and they see the same teams winning year after year, and it's nearly impossible to break through. Also, heavy mentor involvement is the only way to win awards. These are all not true. They're all myths. The truth is, all teams have the same opportunity coming into an event to win an award. Focus on you and your team. We don't want to hear what all the other teams are doing. We want to hear from you what you are doing. Tell us what we need to know about your team and your robot. And then judges will talk to students, not adults, to learn about their team and their robot. So maybe think about having your mentors, adults, step out of the pit during that time to make sure that we hear from the students and become familiar with the awards and descriptions. First has all of this information online. You can see what we are looking for in each award. Take advantage of it, because that is a great way to learn how and what we are looking for each award.
All right, our next bucket of myths is around the First Impact Award specifically. So this first one, I hear every single year at every single event multiple times. So let's all agree this is a myth and not a true statement. Engineering Inspiration is second place First Impact Award. And then the second one is around the video. So judges use the impact video in deciding who wins the impact award. Here's the truth. Engineering Inspiration is a completely separate award. It has its own criteria. It is judged in the pits. It does not require a First Impact Award submission. And the First Impact Award judges do not have any input into the Engineering Inspiration award selection process. So you've all heard it here. We are not going to repeat this myth this year, please. All right. And then moving on to the video component. The First Impact Award video is not used in the judging process. Some teams optionally choose to show their video during their presentation. If you do, please bring your own laptop, speakers, etc. And that, if you do show your video, that would count towards your 7 minutes of presentation. This is completely optional, and some teams do it, some teams don't. It's a team decision. However, if you would like your video to be shown when you win the Impact Award, you will need to submit a video link when you submit your written submission. So please, please, please double check that link before you hit submit. It is heartbreaking to be the judge advisor. And this happens every year. It is truly heartbreaking when we go to pull the link to send to production and the link doesn't work. It's, nothing's in the link, requires a password, any of those types of things, and we can't show your video. It is just heartbreaking. So please double check your link. In previous years, USBs were accepted. So we would require teams to bring in a USB and we'd pull the video from there. Those are no longer accepted. So it has to be through the link when you do your written submission. So at the link at the bottom of the screen there are first impact specific resources. And in that, on that page, there's a whole section about the video, and it has requirements about what your video can and cannot have, how long, where you need to upload it to, all of those things. And then as well as some tips and tricks about making sure that your video link works. So take a look at those. Again, that link also has other general First Impact Award resources that are very helpful to all teams. So definitely worth time to review. And then the second part that we wanted to talk about was the First Impact Award feedback and some recommendations. So teams are allowed to submit an optional third question for feedback. And this needs to touch on a specific area and stay on topic. Judges won't answer questions that are outside the guidelines and boundaries of the Impact Award. So these generally fall into two buckets. Things like, what can I do to win? Or what did the winner do that we didn't do? Or if we had actually talked about XYZ, would that have made a difference? There's like that bucket, which judges can't answer. And then there's also a bucket that's just outside the boundaries of the Impact Award. And that includes things like, how does first pick the game? So if you do submit a question like this, please expect judges to provide a short answer saying we are unable to answer this question. The best feedback that your team can get from your impact presentation is by having an adult silent observer, emphasis on the silent. They're not part of your presentation, but that silent observer in the room who knows your team best and can provide that feedback for you. That silent adult will be able to provide what went well, maybe what you said, what you didn't say, and provide that instant feedback for you to improve for your next event. And then another plug to join our Impact and Dean's List interview informational session on February 1st, where we are going to talk about all things Impact Dean's List interview at the event.
Okay, more myths. These are machine and creativity awards and team attribute specific. So we've heard that some teams think that we have different levels for machine awards. For example, engineering excellence is more prestigious than creativity. Robot performance doesn't matter for machine awards. Match observers don't know what they're looking for on the field, and match observers only care about your first two matches. And the truth, all machine/creativity awards are ranked the same. As judges and judge advisors, we are looking for what award you fit best. So if a team is better set for the creativity award, that is the award that they will get. We're not looking at it and being like, engineering excellence is the top one, so they're going to get that, and then someone else is going to get creativity. They're all ranked the same, and same with our team attributes awards. And then on to robot performance. So robot performance and pit judging both matter. When it comes to judging, we have match observers who are watching your matches, and they are watching the matches throughout the whole event to get a different view on the teams, because you could go and talk to your judges and say, well, we're 100% honor autonomous all the time, and that might not be true on the field. So we have very qualified match observers watching your matches to tell us if things are actually happening or if they're not. And then amazing, as we kind of mentioned, it's all a mix of presentation and it being backed up on the field.
All right. And then one of our final groupings is the myth that there is no hope, there is no help. So common myths about this include if I have concerns about judging, I have to wait until after the event is done to complain to event management or the regional director. There needs to be a team member in the pit at all times to talk to judges, even if we're in a match. And the third is not winning an award means your team has failed this season. So here's the truth. If you have judging concerns at an event, you may ask to contact the JA. Keep in mind, JAs and judges can only answer and we're limited in what we can provide feedback and answer. So we are not going to be able to answer questions like, why didn't we win? Or what feedback do you have for us? What if we did X? Would that have made a difference? And this goes for students and mentors. There are things that JAs are happy to help with and happy to address. So some concerns like that include, it's day 2 of an event and we haven't spoken to a team attributes judge, or we submitted for the first impact award or dean's list and we're not on the schedule. If you have a concern like that, please ask to contact the judge advisor and we would be happy to help. Regarding the myth that you need to be in the pit at all times. So judges will talk to anyone in the pit, provided they are a student. So if you're at a match, if you need a break, the simple answer is clear the pit. And then finally, equating winning awards to having a successful season or not winning equals a failure of a season. That's just simply not true. And right now is actually a really good time for you to reflect, both personally and as a team, on what your goals are for this season. What do you want to do? What do you want to learn? What do you want to accomplish? Write it down. Talk about it with your team. Maybe check in every couple of weeks during build season and competition season. And you'll find that many of these goals are accomplished without winning a specific award.
Now what? We look forward to interviewing and learning about your team and your robot in the future. We hope that this was incredibly helpful for learning a bit more about our role as judge advisors and what your judges are looking for. And if you're unsure of where to start during your interview, think about tell me about your team or tell me about your robot, and that will help us start the conversation. And here are some resources. They're all on the first website for awards, and you can look up what we do as judges.
All right. So we will open it up to questions, and Jess and I will do our best to answer the ones that we can. And looking forward to hearing what questions. We have a few backup ones if we need to get the conversation rolling. All right, Joanna?
So you mentioned earlier you might not be able to give individual feedback. However, I would like to know, is there any clear red flags that you guys kind of look for, or vice versa? Are there any green flags that you look for when interviewing teams or asking them about anything?
I can start this off. I am always looking for excitement from a team. I want to learn about your team. Sometimes you go up to teams and they're not really passionate about what we're there to talk about, and that's okay. If we're asking about technical questions and I come up to a student and they're not super technical, maybe being like, can you wait 1 minute? I have this person over here to talk to that might be able to answer the questions better. That is totally fine. As I mentioned earlier, we are here to advocate for your team. So if you don't feel the most comfortable with our questions and there's somebody else to answer them, we're not going to dock points for that. There is no docking points. We just want to make sure that we give you the best foot forward.
And also there are no points.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And then I'll say an impact specific one, and we'll get more into that on February 1st, but making sure you know your presentation. We see a lot of times people come in with cue cards, and it is more helpful if you have practiced your presentation and are able to share with us what you actually know.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. There are no if you read, the awards description and criteria and the judges manual that we all read and follow, there's no explicit like red flags of like this is going to get you disqualified. But I would echo those green flags, like being extremely passionate about your team and your robot. Highlighting and answering the questions judges are asking or looking for. And they usually start off with, tell me about your team or tell me about your robot. And when you can launch into things like, all right, I'm team ABC from XYZ town, and we have 20 students, and those types of information that you can launch into. It gives us all the information we need to know. If you again, like kind of like Jess said, if you're being asked by a judge about, say, your robot and you're not the one that worked on your robot, please say, hey, could you talk to my teammate over here? Same goes the other way. If you built your robot but you don't exactly know everything there is to know about all your team's outreach, say, hey, can you talk to my teammate over here? Judges love that because we're looking for very specific information in a very short amount of time.
Another thing I'll add is don't be afraid to tell the judges that, hey, our person that we'd love you to talk to is outside of our pit. Would you mind coming back in 5-10 minutes when we grab that person? That is totally okay. We understand it, especially us as alums of the program. It's fine. We want to make sure we give you the best opportunities. So don't be afraid to do that. Maybe at the end of the day, when we're trying to wrap things up, it might be a little bit harder, but we are here to make everyone's life easier.
Yep. All right. Alana?
What's Alana?
Alana.
Okay, yes. I kind of have a true or false question for you. I was recently at Jumpstart a couple months ago, and I was in a judging session. And what they told me about the certain judges that they send out is that they send one experienced judge along with like a newer judge who has less experience. Would you ever send two unexperienced judges to a team, or is it like that system where one is experienced and one isn't?
Yeah. Well, I don't have my roster of judges in front of me of who has experience and who doesn't. So I can't promise you that, we will have two brand new judges at the pit. That's obviously not our goal or our like desired pairing, but the basis of that is correct. If we have a lot of new judges, we like to pair veterans with rookie judges. And we also look at people who have been, or if you might be new to judging, but you have a lot of first experience. So maybe you've been a robot inspector for 10 years, or maybe you've been a team mentor for many years. So you might be new to judging, but you're very familiar with FRC and the program.
Okay, thank you.
I'll also add in there that our judges are going through judge training with FIRST. And then when they get to the event, we are putting them through judge training again. And then if we do happen to have a pair where there's more experience or less experience, Rachel and I and our other judge advisors are checking in with all of our pairs. So we're there to answer questions, maybe step in and check with them to make sure that everyone is getting an appropriate experience.
Okay.
Scott.
So my question is about teams that feel like they have a really strong showing in one particular judging category. So for example, maybe the sustainability award or the quality award or something like that. Is it appropriate for the students to say, we'd really like to talk about sustainability, because we feel like that's the strength of our team? Or is that sort of a faux pas that they should try to avoid and talk about the team in more sort of general terms? What is your advice there, and what is an appropriate and not appropriate response?
So regardless of its, sustainability on the team attribute side, or if there is like a specific element on the machine side that, you really want to emphasize, like your control system or something like that, judges do want to hear about the whole team or the whole robot, because those are essentially like, right, your fact gathering about like, here's what who the team or here's what the machine is all about. But after you kind of give a high level, it is okay to be like, I really, want to talk to you about our team sustainability, and here's all the things that we do, and making sure that you highlight those types of things that your team is really passionate about. Or you could be like, I really want to talk to you about our control system, and we worked really hard this year and revamped it, and here's all the new things, da 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 da, and here's how we're performing, blah 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 blah. Doing it that way, so the judges have their questions answered, because they'll be asked in the judge room during our deliberations for those basic facts, but then having those, passion projects, if you will, rise to the top to say like, I really want this team to be nominated for quality, or, the innovation and controls or sustainability, because those teams have really emphasized that in their presentation. I would say that would be the way to do it.
I'd agree. And then I know when I would judge, and I recommend it to our judges in general, to end the conversation with, is there anything we didn't talk about that you'd want to highlight? That would be a great point to reiterate what you are passionate about.
Joanna.
So you both have mentioned before that you have both been alumni, and in that case, have you both ever talked to judges in your time in FRC? And I guess this is kind of a double-pronged question, but would you say that judging has gotten more sophisticated, or in the case that it hasn't, do you think that resources and I guess that increased competition in more people wanting to get awards and equating awards with success has been that detriment at all?
I did talk to judges when I was a student. So that's the first part of your question. The second part, I would say awards have always been very competitive. I don't think there's been a single season I've been involved where someone has, been like, oh, awards were contentious or competitive this event or this season. I would say in the past several years, it has become, they have released a lot more resources for teams to demystify this judging process. And taking advantage of those resources is, something that can strengthen your team. And those are all the ones we highlighted. There's really no secrets anymore. So you have the judge, not the judge, the award criteria, the award descriptions. You have the judge manuals online. If you really, really want to read it, it's mostly about judging processes. They release sample questions for teams to prepare with every year. Those types of things are now more available than they were even five years ago. So I would say definitely take advantage of those resources that are available.
I agree completely with Rachel. My last year as a student in FRC was 2013, so quite a while ago. So the resources have changed for sure over time. As Rachel said, the judge manual and all of the award criteria is online. So if you are extra excited or interested in it, I would very much so recommend looking at that, because that is what our judges are looking at as well.
If you have said like prepared Q&A, you said to fill the dead space, I'm more than happy. Please go ahead, and if you again, if there was something you were expecting us to ask you that we didn't ask you, um, feel free
Yeah.
to continue to fill that space.
Yeah. Here's some questions that we hear every year. We just added them here to get the conversation rolling. But if these questions spawn more questions, or if another one comes up, please just raise your hand and we can talk about that. So I'll kick one off to you, Jess. How do I know if judges are going to come back to my pit?
Great question. If it is the first day of judging, you should be seen by at least 2 pairs of judges. And we do a nifty thing in the Northland where we have a sheet that we have a student sign these days after we come and see your team. So we want to make sure that all teams are seen at least twice. After that, we deliberate as judges and then come back to see the teams again. So there is really no way of knowing that you will get more than 2 sets of judges, but you will get at least 2 sets of judges to see your team. And if you are unsure that you have been seen twice, you can always come back to us judge advisors and we can see if you have been seen twice.
Yeah, I think there was actually a question like, how do I know if my team was interviewed? And the first thing I would say before you ask to contact the judge advisor is to ask your team. Just put it out there like, did anyone talk to judges today? Because a lot of times judges will have talked to a group of students in your pit, but maybe they're not the ones you thought that they were going to talk to or something like that. Or maybe, someone like forgot that they actually talked to a judge. But ask first. And if you talk to your team and you're like, I don't remember, no one talked to them. The second step is wait. If it's, day one and it's lunchtime and you haven't been seen by both sets of judges, have no fear. It's only been a few hours. If it's creeping into, the start of day 2 and you still haven't been seen by any judges, that's when that would be when it would be appropriate to contact the judge advisor. And we have, like Jess said, several different mechanisms to make sure that all teams are seen at least twice.
I can ask you.
Okay,
Rachel, where will my judge room be?
All right. Well, if you are being interviewed for the First Impact Award or the Dean's List Award, when you check the schedule at Pit Admin and you are not sure where the judge room is, ask. Pit Admin will be able to tell you where the room is and any questions you might have about how early you need to show up, what you need to bring into the room, things like that. Why did a judge come over when there was only one person in my pit?
There was a person in your pit. It might be that they want to check in and it's halfway through the day and they're trying to go see all of their teams and there is one person. So they might be checking to see if it is a good time. Usually judges will ask, hey, is this a good time to speak? Or you might be at the end of the day and your judges are trying to wrap things up and they see that somebody is in the pit when there haven't been a lot of people in the pit total. So if that is an issue, clear the pit or have more people come back and that will make your life easier.
I do want to say that judges, our main way or location where we interview teams is in your pit. But like we've said, we have a very tight timeline of when we need to see all teams by, when we need to have our deliberations complete by, and things like that. So every year, for a variety of reasons, there's a couple of teams that just are not in their pit. And that's, not necessarily, it's not good or bad. It's just a fact. And if we're pressing up against that timeline, that's when we're going to work with other event volunteers to make sure your team is seen. So what that might look like. So we might work with the queuing team to interview your team right after you come off the field after a match. Or if you're always at the practice field, it might look like judges working with the practice field attendant or robot inspector to interview your team at the practice field about your robot, things like that. The point is that every team has to be seen by two sets of judges. Once to talk about team attributes and once to talk about machine attributes. So if you find yourself in this situation where judges are, really trying to get a hold of you, please remember gracious professionalism. And like we've said, judges, we're here to help, and we're here to really be your team's best advocate. And in order to do that, we need to learn about what makes your team and what makes your robot so awesome. All right. Alana.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question about such as if we have one person in the pit, but they are willing to talk to a judge. Let's say they ask a question about the robot, but it's someone that doesn't really work with it, but they try to give an answer. It's enough to where they can go into detail. But if we had someone that could go into that detail about our robot, would we be able to call a judge back to restate that question that they were to ask because the wrong person answered it?
So I'd say it depends. if this happens every year, so this is a very common question we get, and if the student was able to really articulate everything that they needed to know, and judges got all the information they needed, there might not be a reason to ask to call the judge back, because we got all the information we needed. All the questions were answered. I would say one way to put this back on teams would be making sure that the people that are in the pit know those types of questions that they could be asked by judges. Mainly tell me about your robot. What makes your robot so awesome? What features do you like to highlight? What are some accomplishments you did throughout your design process? Things like that. So that everyone who's in the pit can speak competently and confidently about those features. So I would say most of the time when this happens, the judges get all the information they need. And if they don't, that's when they will come back to the pit to ask further information.
Okay, I kind of have a tiny follow-up question. Within that same situation, let's say someone is talking about impact, or what does your team do for outreach, and someone gives wrong information or such as information that is very outdated. They know what we do in the past years, but let's say we have a lot new things that are very well improved, are making much more impact, but they don't state those and they state old data.
Jess, you want to take that one?
Ooh, that one is a little bit more difficult. You got the easy one, Rachel. That's hard. You can always, I think the most important thing is if you don't know the newer information, let the judges know, hopefully while you're still talking to them, that there is somebody else that would have updated information. If you see the judges that you talked to earlier and you learn that this person talked to them and gave false information, I believe it wouldn't hurt, Rachel, you can correct me, if you asked them to come back in this situation to let them know what the newer things are. But you have to also understand that we are on a strict timeline, so there might not be time for that.
Yeah, I think just like I said before, the best, response to that would be make sure that everyone on your team and the people in the pit especially know those basic facts about your team and your robot. So that if a judge pair comes up and says, "Hey, tell me about your team," they're able to answer a lot of those basic questions. And then if they get a specific question that they're not able to answer, it is much better to say, I'm not sure about that, rather than make something up. And then if judges have follow-up questions and you don't know, or that's a perfectly acceptable answer to say, like, I'm not really sure. Someone could come back and they might know. And then judges will either will come back to the judging room and deliberations. And if it comes up and more information is needed, that's when judges will come back. But sometimes we don't need more. We have all the information we need. And we don't need to come back to get more. Does that answer all your questions?
Yes. Yes, it did a lot. That I was putting that kind of scenario in, like if we had a new member that is exploring the pits, but they get pinned by a judge while we're in a match, and they're like, "I think I can answer this. I think I can answer this very good," but then they're just missing some elements while we're out at a match, or we're just not there.
Yeah. All right, Joanna.
This is a bit of a more for fun question, but number one is, what is the best or funniest answer that you've gotten for a question? And number two, does it make more of a difference between personability in terms of answers, or would you prefer a more serious but still passionate sort of interest question?
I love learning what your robot is named, and I love hearing the silly little things that make it special. I've had teams tell me the most wild stories about, we named this robot because one of our students on the team did this one thing and it started an inside joke and we named our robot after it. I know that's crazy, but this is what we did. That brings us joy, and those are things that we'll remember. As judges, if it does come to that, we might use that for award scripts. We want to know what make you and your team unique. I think it just depends on how you deliver the information. You might be the most exciting and personable team and be giving a lot of information, but at the end of the day, you might not be best or rise to the top for an award, and that's okay. We still probably really enjoyed that session. And the same thing can be said about a more technical judging interview where people are more serious. As long as you are able to get the information out there and show that you're passionate, that's all that matters.
I have nothing to add to that. All right, Alana.
Yeah, I kind of had a follow-up-ish question on what Joanna said, but when you're getting asked about, so there's like the prototyping process or your outreach, does it have to all be super formal? Like, I mean, I know you can be super like excited about facts and fun facts, but as you're explaining like your improvement in these processes, can you add your own personal input of like, I really think this has been improving our team by doing this, and this was much better than what we did before, or just explaining how we feel as like internally within of the improvement we've made within our own accomplishments.
Yeah. Again, read those award descriptions and criteria, because there are certain awards that talk about the process that you go through as a team, be it on the mechanical robot side or as on the team attribute side. So review those, because talking about the process of mistakes you made, how you fixed it, what you learned is part of what we talk about during judge deliberation. So that's very important. I would say in terms of like being casual or professional in your pit interview, I think the most important thing is that you are clear in your communication. You speak loudly. That sounds funny, but it's very loud in the pit. So, when you're talking like this, it's really hard to hear you. But when you're talking like this, it is much easier to hear you, much easier to understand what you're saying. So using, clear language, concise, you're hitting on the points that you need to about your robot, that's going to be a winning formula. Well, winning, not necessarily winning formula, but you're winning in terms of you
You're putting your best foot forward.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at there. Thank you, Jess.
Scott.
I guess I want to circle back to this. I think we've danced around a particular topic a couple of times, especially with some of the questions that Alana's been asking and some of the comments you just made about putting your best foot forward. And I guess I'm looking for a little bit more clarity around this. I feel like I have a decent handle on this, but I think having sort of a better, more descriptive kind of suggestion for this might be good for everyone else who might be listening or watching on the replay. Part of the challenge that I feel like happens every year with judging is that teams, and maybe this is a false perception of what should happen, but teams are expected to have the people that need to talk to the judges in the pit all the time, most of the time. When the judges approach the pit, whoever's there should be ready to talk to judges. But on the other hand, you've said this, is that you want the most expressive individuals, the people who can show the most passion, who are the most prepared, who know they've read the judge's rule, they've kind of practiced. You want those people talking to the judges. And often the people building the robots and the people who've done the practice are not the same people, and only so many people fit in a pit. And then you've got very large teams like our team who, in order to kind of give responsibility to more people, we dedicate students to talk to judges. But if those students who are there to talk to judges are in the pit all day long with the programmers that are trying to fix the code and the builders that are trying to fix the robot, that becomes too many people in the pit. So I think there's this challenge of making sure the right people are in the pit at the right time to talk to the judges, but also kind of complying with that expectation of when the judges approach and they ask questions, they expect students to answer whoever might be there. You made the comment of just make sure whoever's in the pit knows. Well, maybe that's the right answer, but maybe it's not. Maybe the right answer is, hey, we got to get our people who have actually prepared to talk to judges back in the pits so they can talk to the judges. Do you have recommendations of what is the right approach? How do we handle those situations? Is it appropriate to have students dedicated to being those? We've identified these are the passionate students. They're not turning a wrench, but we want them to talk to the judges. What's your feedback on that?
Let's see. This is a very complex question, and I'm going to answer it in context of being a judge advisor, and that is that it is up to you and your team, which is not the answer you want to hear. I will tell. I know that is not it, but like, the from the event logistics, which is what Jess and I are ultimately responsible for in terms of judging, is that every team needs to be seen at least twice, once by a team, once by machine attribute, and we have those tight deadlines to meet. So however teams staff, if you will, their pit or designate who does what roles and responsibilities, like I don't have say into that, nor do I want to be able to dictate like how teams do their thing. So from a JA perspective and a judging perspective, I don't have a good answer for you.
Would it be appropriate so I'm going to give Nightcrawlers a specific example because this is an approach we started taking when our team got so large, and which coincidentally coincided with the fact that awards meant points for champs. So we started dedicating students to give another competition role to more students to be speaking to the judges. Is it appropriate if a judge comes by the pit for us to say, can you move on to the next team and then come back to us and we will make sure our students are here? Or is that crossing some weird, that's not really how you should do that?
So a lot of judges, we like to recommend ask the question, is this a good time to talk to your team? So don't be worried if you say no. Can you come back in 10, 15 minutes? That's totally okay. We want to make sure that students have time to eat, they have time to breathe, they have time to go to the bathroom, they have time to be able to do more than just stand in the pit all day. It does make it difficult more later on in the first day that we are judging if it's 4 p.m., as we said. But if it's before noon, we're a bit more flexible.
And is it okay to ask, are you here to judge Robot Award or what is the other one? What is the other category generally called?
Team and machine.
Yeah.
So is it okay to say, are you looking for our machine students or our team students? And then we can go get those folks. Is that out of bounds?
That is acceptable. And usually you'll be able to tell because the first question that almost all judges ask is like, tell me about your team or tell me about your robot. And that should clue you into, we're here to figure out what we need to know about machine attributes or team attributes. And if your team's being asked and you're like, oh, well, our robot's at a match. Can you come back later to talk about the robot? That's perfectly acceptable. But again, just like reiterating what Jess said is we are empathetic to the fact that it is very hard to be at a competition. There are a lot of competing priorities. But just know, again, judges also have to be able to talk to every single team twice. And that is a lot of work. And so when judges do come to your pit and are asking questions, just again, gracious and professional. And if you need additional students to come, please just work with the judges in your pit and to say, can you come back in 5 minutes? But if again, we're talking to you as you come off the field because it's 4 p.m. on day one, it's going to be a lot more challenging to accommodate longer amounts of time than if it's say 8 a.m. or we don't start at 8 a.m., but right after opening ceremonies on day one.
Another option too is you start talking with the students that are there and maybe you text or call the ones that need to be there. And your other students might be able to give a high level presentation on what things are, but then the other ones come in and we see that all the time. And that is totally fine. We understand that not everyone knows everything. And sometimes we like hearing more from more voices. That's always a good thing. So there are options.
And to reiterate, there's no points in quotes in the judging system. So by asking for more time or saying, hey, I'm not the student who worked on the robot, you are not going to quote lose any points in this judging process by saying that. All right, Alana?
Yeah, I kind of have two questions for you. My first question is since the judges have to come to our team twice for two separate questions, do judges try to do them both in that first day, like a day one of competition, or they kind of do this one day and then they do the other question of the next day, or is it completely based on the schedule and the time it takes to get to that team throughout the day?
So I'm not really sure how to answer this, but all teams have to be seen twice. The exact timing of when those two interviews will be cannot be, predicted or signed up for like an interview. But in general, there can always be something strange that happens, but in general, we try to get those two interviews done right away on day one. Take right away for what you will.
So I'm going to take that to mean by lunch or maybe with an hour or two after lunch on day one. Part of this might be coming up because I think it was 2 years ago, we only saw one set of judges at one of our competitions. And we didn't know that That was before you guys have done a really good job of saying, hey, if you haven't seen two judges, you need to come check in, because we didn't know back then. We weren't sure how many judges we were expected to see during the day. So I really appreciate that first, and you guys as JAs are being more vocal about saying, if you haven't seen someone, you need to come check in. And it may have been a very unique situation for us because we were at the same event. 2052 was at the same event as 2502, and it very well may be that one of the judges that intended to come talk to us got the numbers mixed up and went and talked to Talon instead. So we don't know, but we've been giving our students advice saying you should expect to see the judges by before 3/4 of the day has passed on that first day. That seems fair. I mean, I know that you're not trying to give us a timeline, but that's sort of the general feeling I'm getting from you.
Yeah, I don't want to give out a specific timeline because every event runs a little differently.
Mhm.
And that if I say one thing and then it doesn't happen at an event, then, I don't want event management or that JA or the regional director to get a bunch of complaints when, it was 1 hour off. Like that's also not, that's kind of why I'm not giving
Right.
you the exact timeline that you're looking for. But I don't know if that answers it, but just like also we've talked about, there are mechanisms in place that we have for the room to make sure all teams are interviewed twice, to verify that every team is being seen, double checking that all the lists are done, and then that if you get to that start of day 2, it's like 11 a.m. and you're like, we have not seen any judges. That's definitely when you need to call a JA. And we might have, it might have been a situation where there was one student in the pit and we got all the information we needed. So,
Mhm.
but yes, there are mechanisms in place where you can ask questions, within those limits of what we can help you with.
And if you are looking for us, there are a few different ways to find us. If you ask a key volunteer or go to pit admin, they have our information and they can get a hold of us. Or if you see us, they introduce us at each event. So you might remember what we look like, but also you might not. But you can reach out to pit admin and they'll get us as quickly as possible.
Do you guys want to continue with your preset questions? Go ahead.
Yeah. Here's another one that we get all the time, just jumping to the middle. My impact or dean's list interview time doesn't work for me. That's one part. And the second part is no one wants to switch with me. So Jess, we want to take that first part.
Yes. If the time does not work for you, which you should know on the practice day, we'll put down the list of times and everything, and then we'll usually give it an hour or two after. Every event is different, but once match schedule comes out, eventually we will get a bunch of change forms, which they will have at pit admin. So if a time doesn't work for you, you can grab a change form and look at the other names and team members that are competing for impact or dean's list to figure out if they have a time that would work for a student and your team. You can bring that change form, ask them if they're willing to switch. This is all about gracious professionalism. So we want to make sure things work for everyone, and teams should be gracious and try to make things work for other teams as well. But if it comes to a point where there aren't any times that work for your student because they're in a match and nobody's willing to switch with them for the times that work, contact us as our judge advisors, and you can go to pit admin for that, and we will come and we can talk to you and we'll find a situation that works for everybody involved.
I have a follow-up question. It's day 2, and say it's 9 a.m. and my interview's at, or let's pick a better time. Say it's 11 a.m. and my interview is at 11:15. Can I submit a change form?
No, you cannot submit a change form, but if there are extenuating circumstances, such as the field is running very far behind and you are on the field, you can always go to pit admin and explain the situation, and they can get the judge advisor, and we could potentially find a situation that works for you and your team. We care about your team getting seen. We are not here to be the bad guys and say, well, you were 5 minutes late due to your match. Too bad, so sad. But the thing is, you need to communicate these things with us. We need to make sure that we know so we can make sure that everything happens because we're on a timeline.
Yep. Yeah. So those last minute changes are definitely not ideal because we have given the judges like some background, like in the room, they have their schedule. So they have all of their materials ready and in an order and all of that. So when you do those last minute changes, there isn't always that like communication back to the judge room that like, hey, Sally's going in at 11:15 instead of Jimmy, for example. But oftentimes, again, please let pit admin know. And sometimes pit admin can work it out without even having to contact the JA. So pit admin is one of your other friends and allies at the event. Please get to know them. They are awesome people, and they are here to help. Joanna,
that works.
Joanna. Okay.
But say your team is like a rookie team. What is the best advice that you would give them, or what is a focus that you would recommend to them?
Have fun.
Yeah.
We want to hear what you're excited about. We want to learn about your passions. We want to know why you're doing this. There are rookie-specific awards, so look at those award materials and the descriptions. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing for us as judges advisors is that you're having fun and you want to come back and do this again.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Whether you're a rookie team or this is your rookie season as a student, it's all about having fun, meeting new people, gaining new experiences, and communicating what those might be. So it might look like, oh, I learned all these different things about how to host an outreach event, or I learned all these different things about our control system. Showing that passion and enthusiasm is great. Even if you're not a judge talker, it's a great opportunity to learn and meet new people at the event.
Rachel, I'll ask you a question. What is the role of a mentor when the judges are interviewing a team?
All right. Mentors are that silent observer, emphasis on silent. We as judges like to talk to and will really only talk to students. So I know there are a lot of young mentors. So please do not take offense if judges just verify, like, I just want to make sure you're a student, right? It's because we're here to talk to students. So we've seen many different approaches for mentors during pit interviews. Some are that silent observer where they're just, take a step back and listening to provide feedback afterwards of like, hey, you did a great job doing X, Y, Z. Oh, you forgot to mention this. Make sure to include it next time. We also see mentors that just step away and, that's their time to go get a refreshment or take a break. But the bottom line is that it's the students' time to shine, and you're there as support. How about this last one? Because we live in Minnesota or North Dakota. So what happens if there's an extenuating circumstance like the weather? How do I know that my team is still going to be judged?
That is a great question, and one that is common at the Great Northern. Our event management will clearly communicate what is going on if there is a weather situation, and will provide more information on timeline and what is going on. It might be a shortened judging period, but teams will still be seen.
Yes. if there's any impact to team facing processes, you will be known. You'll be notified.
Rachel and Jess, one of the things that I've been thinking about as I've been sitting here is that we started off with the myths, and this is what you've heard is true about judging, or I should say, this is what the misconceptions have been about judging. I suspect, or I believe, that a lot of that has to do with the fact that there really isn't any feedback from the judges to the teams. And so teams are left with just making assumptions or jumping to conclusions about what happened or why that happened. Has there been any discussion at First HQ about providing any type of feedback at all to teams? Maybe not even constructive criticism, but in terms of these are the things that stood out that we liked about your teams that could potentially help teams understand, this is what they took away from our discussion. That's good to know. Any feedback at all is always helpful, and I understand why you don't do that, but I'm curious to know if there's any discussions about that at a higher levels.
I do not know, because I'm not in those conversations with First Headquarters.
Mm-hmm. Those are First Headquarters conversations.
Got it.
But what I will say is we have seen changes over the years with impact, getting the feedback forms and everything. So you never know.
Are you willing or able to give us any insight into what is the process for deciding awards that happens in the judging room, or is that also not something that you're allowed to discuss with us?
It's in the judge manual that is online.
Okay.
It is fully written out of how the judging process happens and how the deliberation process happens.
We've had a lot of night crawlers asking questions tonight. We have a fair number of other folks representing several other teams on the call. Does anyone else have any questions? This is a roundtable after all, so please jump in if you have questions about the judging process or want to share an experience that your team has had that might be helpful to everyone else.
I'm Stacy with 2472, and I don't think my camera is working, but I can back up the fact that if you don't have a video for First Impact, you can still win, because we missed submitting ours in 24, but still won. One question I have: the students, our team have been select an award or two every year that they think would best fit how we're doing that season, and then try and anticipate questions. Could they be, if they're anticipating that, or they're practicing thing, is it are they like maybe too routine, or is that okay?
That's okay. We want to know what the answer to those questions are, and they will likely be similar to the things that we want to get at. And if anything, that will help your team prepare for potential questions for each award. And I'll take it a little further of if your judge at the end asks, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with us? And there's something you're really prepared for, or you really love your answer to, that is a perfect time to share it.
Yep.
And it pains us whenever we don't have an impact team with the video, but we also understand it.
Because it is not required.
Yes.
Like, to be clear, you do not need a video to win the award.
Yes.
But we always love seeing them. And if your link doesn't work, that is especially heartbreaking, because we know how much work goes into those videos, and then to not be able to show it is really hard.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you have mentioned prior that there will usually be like pit scouters in addition to judges that will evaluate matches and things. To what extent do you think you can explain how heavily that would impact an award, or if there is an outlier in performance, would that have any sort of impact or larger influence than most teams will have the misconception of?
Let me scroll back to that one specifically.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, go on, Rachel.
yeah. So uh, we call them match observers, and they're there to watch the matches. And their role is like you'll see if you read the judge manual. They're there during the process, and they're backing up what claims you made in the pit. So 2 examples that Jess and I always use are the match observers come back and they're like, Team ABC has this amazing auto. They score all the points and do all the things. And then we say, all right, well, what did they talk about in their pit? And they said like nothing about their auto. They did not talk about anything, or they give like very basic, like, oh yeah, we just like, scored a bunch of points. So that's not going to be as powerful as you need to have both elements. And the inverse is true. So if you talk about in your pit presentation about how amazing your quality is and how robust your machine is and all the different things you have going into making sure that it doesn't break, and then the match observer comes back and says, yeah, every match, all their wheels fell off. Like that's not gonna, those two things don't equate, and that's not gonna end well. I can't say, because there isn't really an answer of like it's weighted 50-50, or this matters more for this award. Like that's just not prescribed. It's all about the award criteria, and the match observers are another set of eyes that are there to make sure that what is gathered in the pits matches what's performed on the field.
Look at that award criteria, because all awards are different.
Yep. Especially this year. I think another myth that, just to reiterate, especially around the match observers, is we always hear every year, like, the match observers didn't know what to look for. And again, just like it said here, here's the truth. We have multiple match observers, so it's not just one person watching 6 robots. And these match observers are very experienced. Every year at every event, we have judges who specifically want to match observe as their judging role. And the other people that are assigned as match observers are ones who know the game, know FRC, and are able to know what to be looking for. So it's not just random Joe off the street.
Is there anyone else who has questions? We're not quite to 8:30 yet, but we're getting awfully close. I want to make sure that we use all of our time, but we don't need to stretch this out just to meet a timeline either. Anyone else? Anyone want to take a shot at a question about judging?
I think I have one about the scheduling for like interviews.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, so before we like submit our person that is going to be like presenting either for Impact or for Deans or whatever award they are going to interview for, can you add like any kind of note saying they are like a driver, or they are someone important that is always on the field, and that their best time to meet is like lunch or somewhere later? Can you add that kind of thing of before interviews are even made when you're submitting that person?
No. I mean, so about lunch, judges like to eat too. So we have a lunch. So we don't usually, unless again, extenuating circumstance, judges eat lunch while you all are also eating lunch. But we are not looking at there, and you should not waste any of your precious characters to say like, please don't schedule us from 1 to 2 p.m. Please don't do that. You have way more important uses for those characters. So you won't know what your time is until you get to the event.
I will say that last year our 2 Dean's List candidates were both on the drive team, and we did to do a little bit of finagling, but we were able to work out a schedule, and they were both able to get a time where we had a longer break between matches.
Yeah, and that's very common. A lot of our Dean's List candidates that's why they're nominated. They are leaders on their team. And a lot of times leaders are the ones on drive team. They're the ones leading scouting in the stands. They're the ones directing activities in the pit and things like that. So it's very common for Dean's List students to need to deconflict with other teams.
I'll put in a plug. If you love FRC, think about volunteering, especially if you're an adult coach or mentor and you want to have a job at an event. Maybe not judging, maybe whatever you're interested in, but there are a lot of volunteer roles that need to be filled for our events. So if there's anything of interest, reach out to our lovely, lovely volunteer coordinators in Minnesota and the Northland. I'm sure they would love to get more volunteer spots filled.
At one of the links that we provided, it talks about the judge volunteer role specifically, but on that same page, or you're all very tech savvy, you can read about all the other volunteer roles and which one might fit you. And then I know for the students on the call, there are limited opportunities for students, and that's because you're a student. We want you to enjoy the event. As a student, you only get so many years to do that. Yes, Joanna, sorry.
So just about anybody can jump in on this question as well if they have similar experiences. But say a team has had a streak of being able to meet the criteria for an award or multiple awards, but they just missed that mark just by a little bit based on how competitive the scene is. Is there any advice or any recommendations that you or anybody else would give for that team to be able to kind of break that cycle and stand out?
Think about what makes your team unique. If we're looking at a bunch of teams that do similar things, at the end of the day, if there is a team that does something unique and is able to give more information on that, that might help them more.
Yeah, this is exact. I just pulled up the corresponding slide and nailed it right there. Focused on you and your team.
You can also talk to other teams in the Northland or around the world to see what they're doing, to learn a little bit more.
All right. I think this is a great place to wrap up. Alana, okay, go ahead. One more question.
It's a very, very short follow-up, but it's basically the same question. But is it better to have more than one person input on a question? Like, yes, there's one person that can answer very well, but like if it's such as a team question, but only one person answers it, is it better to have a lot more person inputs, like a real person or someone that, or like a programmer that works on something completely separate, but they both have like input on a team question? Would that be better to have than just one person answering it?
It depends, right? Like, so if one person can answer the question satisfactorily and hits on all the points that you want to address, then that's it. Just like any conversation that you would have in a different context, if one, like just as Jess and I are doing, I'll say something and then Jess will be like, oh, I want to add on, and then she'll jump in, and then there'll be times where like I won't jump in because Jess has said everything I would say. So think of it like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. let's everyone give please Jess and Rachel a big round of applause, big claps and stuff on the screen. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us your time tonight. I assume that everyone will find this as valuable as I did. We really appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to this February 1st thing. That must be I did not notice that getting added to the calendar, so I'm very excited to see another session added to the calendar for February 1st. So let's remind everybody it's about Dean's List and Impact, right?
Yep, the interview process specifically.
Excellent. So that will be a very timely and very awesome presentation. I'm very excited to see that on the schedule. So thank you for signing up for that session. Next week, as long as I've got the calendar up here, let's talk about what's happening next week. Next week, our discussion is being led by Talon, and they're giving a talk about their engineering side of the team. So we're going to hear from Talon next week, and then we have one more presentation before the end of the year, and it's about templates, tools, and torque. So boy, we're getting close to kickoff here. We only have 2 more presentations before kickoff. Very exciting. All right, thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining tonight. Thank you for those that offered questions up. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next week. Have a good night.
Thank you, Scott.
Good night, everyone.
That's it for this week's FRC Roundtable. Join us live all season long, every Sunday night. Visit the website at team2052.com/roundtable to sign up for weekly invites. In the meantime, keep building, keep learning, and we'll see you next week.